Is it ever okay to give in to a tantrum? My name is Jodie Thornton, and I want to talk about quite a few examples where I think it's a really good idea to give into a tantrum. So, the very first example I want to talk about is when what we are saying is giving in is actually just meeting your child's needs. So, if you imagine your child has gotten upset about something, they've gotten overwhelmed, and now they're tantruming. But the thing that they were upset at was a really valid thing. So maybe they're hungry, or maybe they're thirsty, or maybe they needed like some connection, or basically any of the valid needs that they have. And what's happened is, before we managed to get them what it is that they need, maybe they couldn't articulate it in time, or maybe it took us a minute to get it organized, or all of these things. If they're actually tantruming because they need something really valid, we want to give it to them. And that's not giving into a tantrum, that's just meeting your child's needs. It just so happens that you're meeting your child's need after they got overwhelmed. That's all that is, right? So I'm including it in a list of reasons, but only because we might see it as giving in, but it's actually not what I would call giving it in. The second example I would say is that if not giving into the tantrum is going to send you into dysregulation, it's not helpful for your child if whatever benefits we're trying to get from not giving into tantrums, we're undoing all of that if they have the experience of a parent being dysregulated. And so if you need to give into tantrums, if you're in a stage of life where you just need to because anything, you have a new baby, you're going through a tough time yourself, like anything, and if not giving into that tantrum is going to send you into dysregulation, you are better off giving into the tantrum than getting yourself into dysregulation. Of course, over time, we want to get to a place where you're not under as much pressure. We want to get to a place where you know how to use your skills to help them regulate so that you don't need to give in. We want to get to a place where your child has the skills to express themselves assertively, to understand what their emotions are feeling and be able to say what they need before they get upset. We want to get there, but that doesn't have to happen quickly. If it's taking some time, or you're in a stage where it's really difficult for you to do that, it's totally okay to give into the tantrums for now. You're not permanently setting their expectations that if they're upset, everybody else should acquiesce to them. This is just a period where you haven't yet built the skills to help your child regulate, and or you haven't yet helped your child build the skills to be aware of and express their emotions. So that's two times where it's definitely a thing. The third time I would say is sometimes it really will make the day easier. So there might be times where it's a really important visit with family members, and in order to get them there on time, or in order to help them in, handle being in a place, then maybe giving in is the best response in that situation. And so I really want you to trust in your judgment, and really, the times when you do give in, think about it afterwards. Was there a better way for me to handle that, or was it just a difficult situation? There's so many times where our lives are actually set up in a way that it's really not easy for our children to stay regulated. Either the situation is not ideal for where they're at developmentally, or maybe our family situation is really tough because our societies are not set up with villages so that we actually get the support that we would need to be able to be responsive to our children 24/7. If we're just in a situation where it is what it is, I definitely build your ability to discern, was that my best response available in the moment, or could I have done something differently? And not hold yourself to expectations that are unrealistic, but just discerning, was that actually just the best available response I had in the moment? I think this is really important for us to start to build our own internal sense of, is this the best option available to me? Based on what I know of myself, my child, my family structure, my situation, based on what I know of all of this, what's my view on whether this is what it is, or whether there was room for something to improve? And if there's room for something to improve, do I have the capacity right now to make those changes, or am I in a situation where it's going to need to wait, right? If you are in a place where you want to make those changes, by all means, pop me an email and let's chat about what we can do together. But if you're in a situation where it's just not the thing that you can take on right now, then we're just getting to build that discernment of, this is the situation that I'm in, and I am not solely responsible for how our society is set up, how our economy is set up. I'm not solely responsible for that. My job is to deal with what I have and do what I can to support my child's emotional development over time. So those are 3 occasions where I think, like, sometimes we think giving into a tantrum is like really laying almost like a pattern for your child that they will never grow out of. And I want us to really focus on the fact that an individual situation is not creating a pattern. And even if you did create a pattern with your child, all we need to do to get out of that pattern is build their skills. We need to build their understanding of their emotions. We need to build their understanding of how to actually articulate what's going on for them. We want to build their capacity to problem solve so they can get their underlying needs met in a way that's practical, realistic, and works for everybody that's involved. Like, these are just skills. And if you're in a time right now where you don't have the capacity to focus on them building those skills, you're not permanently damaging them by doing things in an imperfect way. And also say, like, the not giving in is often, like, the alternative is just allowing them to be tantruming consistently, and that's not necessarily helpful for them either. So the ideal solution is that when you have the time and energy, we just get to work on those skills. Like, that's all we're doing, is recognizing what is the underlying need that's getting them upset. How do we get that need met in a way that's practical, realistic, and works for everybody that's involved? And, like, I'll say it again, those are just skills. And I don't think there's ever a reason to wait to teach those skills at a certain age. We can get started as young as possible. But if you're in a stage of life where it's impossible to be able to make those changes right now, you have time. Like, it doesn't have to be now. Like, I didn't learn those skills until I was over 30, right? So it's not something that we have a deadline on. But if you have the capacity, let's get started today, right? Let's move forward on that. But if you don't, we want to recognize that giving into tantrums is not some, permanent scar on their emotional development that will mean that they can't ever cope with distress. They won't ever build distress tolerance, or they won't ever be able to be considerate of other people. Nothing that you're doing right now is permanently setting them up in a different way. So all we want to do is, as soon as we have the capacity to start teaching them the skills that they need so that they don't have to get into a place where they're overwhelmed, that's what we're going to do. And so in the meantime, if giving into the tantrum is the best available choice, then please make that choice. Guilt-free, shame-free. Anyone wants to guilt or shame you, you can just send me a message and say, someone's guilting me and shaming me, remind me that I don't need to be guilted about this, right? And I absolutely will. I want you to recognize that sometimes it's going to be the right decision, and it's okay for you to make that decision. Now, if you're in a place where you would like to get started on building your child's emotional awareness, building their ability to communicate what they need, building your ability together to work as a team to get everybody's needs met, please do book a time to chat with me. You can do that at jodithornton.com/call. We can just have a free chat about where you're up to, what's working, what's not working, and what you'd like to focus on, and I can tell you about how I would help. Thank you so much.